Euphorbia bupleurifolia, an absolutely stunning plant from South Africa, sometimes called the pinecone euphorbia, I think for pretty obvious reasons. Now, today, there are really two things I want to talk about. The nature of these plants, where they grow, how they grow, those sorts of things, as well as, of course, some very important cultivation advice, should you try and grow one of these yourself. And they're really well worth growing, as you can see. So, hang tight as we jump in and look at everything you need to know about this absolutely stunning plant. As I said, these are a South African species. They actually grow in the summer rainfall region of South Africa, which means that they go dormant in the winter time. What that looks like, leaves, flowers all fall off, and we're left with the pinecone-like trunk. Now, these plants can grow up to maybe about 20 centimeters tall, so there's a bit of room for growth in this one. And they may or may not offset. Typically when they do offset, it's at the base, like you can see in this instance. And they're a plant that we call dioecious, which means that each plant itself is either male or female, which I suppose adds a slightly complex dilemma if we're interested in raising these plants from seed. You're going to need to have a few different plants and ensure that one of them's a boy and one of them's a girl. You can see this one here, this is female, and I do have a male one here. I have bred these together. You can see the resulting little baby here. This one's maybe about 2 years old. So, if we want to look after these plants, stop them from dying and let them get up to that impressive size, how do we do it? Let's find out. When it comes to cultivation, there are really 4 things that we need to be mindful of. They are sun, soil, temperature and water. And of course, to a certain extent, they all play into each other anyway. As far as sun goes, in habitat, these plants grow in open grassland. What that means is that the woody cortex, although it's exposed above the soil line, is actually protected from the harshest of the sun's rays by the grasses around it. And really it's just these leaves that come up and do the photosynthetic behavior anyway. What that means is you're going to need to ensure that this is a plant that receives plenty of light, not necessarily on the trunk, but certainly the leaves. This is not going to be an indoor plant. Plenty of sun exposure. Otherwise it's going to stretch, sickly, probably cark it in no time. As far as soil goes, these are plants that are going to thrive in a mineral-rich, gritty soil. You want something really well draining. The soil mix that I use, typically for these plants, you're going to find at least 50% inorganic. That inorganic component might be a bit of pumice, sandstone, zeolite, granite, a mixture of all the above. Pumice, if you can get it, it's the wonder mineral, well worth looking into. Mix that with about 50% or less organic material, in this case in the form of a store-bought cactus mix, and you got yourself a mix perfect for Euphorbia bupleurifolia. Now when it comes to temperature and water, they go hand in hand. Like I said, these plants, they go dormant over the winter time. It's a period where they don't really need much or any water at all. When they start to emerge in the spring, however, like these plants, these have only been out for a week or two, we can start to increase our watering schedule. And when we get to the heights of summer, they will be thirsty. I'll water these plants up to 2 times a week when the temperatures start getting quite high. If you do all of those things, you're pretty much set, and you're going to have yourself a very happy, rapidly growing and immaculately beautiful plant. Now, there's a lot more we could talk about. Flowers, pollination, how to raise them from seed, but we'll save that for another day, perhaps a more advanced lesson. Hope you learned something today. That's Euphorbia bupleurifolia, and I'm Michael from Aridzine.